As we continue our romp through a lot of the legendary lords that are not in Total War Warhammer 1 and 2, we come to a race that was really kind of shafted in the legendary lore department, the Wood Elves. So the Wood Elves, we see Orion on the tabletop as well as in Total War Warhammer 1, well, and subsequently in 2, and also Durthu, the mighty treeman. Now, there are two other lords, well, lords and slash ladies, that are not on the Legendary Lords roster. And, well, there's actually a third one too, but it's neither a lord nor a lady, it's a branch. Well, there's Eriloth, Lord of Talson, and Draika, Briar Maven of Woe, and then lastly, Naestra and Arahan, the Sisters of Twilight. And that's going to be the focus of our video here today, because I really want to talk about Naestra and Arahan in the same vein of some of the characters we've been talking about that are, consequently two of them, well, this will be the second, have been female, but also their rules and their lore are very unique and cool and different, and they're not just this typical kind of, oh, here's a really badass lord upon a mighty steed or a dragon of old age, breathing fire and has this old armor. It's a little bit more complex, and Naestra and Arahan, I think, are a really, really interesting and really cool lady choice for the legendary lord slot for Wood Elves. And again, this is purely speculative. It's kind of saying like, hey, if Creative Assembly were to say, hey, we're going to release a new Wood Elf legendary lord, here's a speculation of what that might be. Naestra and Arahan, just to start off, are so unique that I don't think they'd make a great translation to Total War Warhammer, so that's my big fat disclaimer up front. But let's jump into this as we always do. We'll do the lore blurb as always, then we'll jump into some of the special rules, their mount options and stuff like that. So this is Naestra and Arahan, the Sisters of Twilight. High in the alpine slopes of the pine crags, the eyrie of Twilight dominates the skyline. Herein lie the elegant halls of Naestra and Arahan, the Sisters of Twilight. The twins are as different as night from day, not just in appearance, but in personality. Naestra's spirit is as pure as starlight. Arahan's is as wild as an unbridled flame. While Naestra seeks battle only in pure pursuit of preventing greater harms, Arahan welcomes it with a wanton joy. If truth be told, Naestra always seems reproving of her sister's deeds, though this only ever increases Arahan's delight. Despite their differences, the twins are inseparable. Never has one been sighted without the other in all the time that they have been dwelt in Athel Loren. The Sisters of Twilight first appeared during the long years of Ariel's self-imposed exile from the mortal realm, acting as her representatives upon the Great Council. None save for the Mage Queen know the sisters' true origins, though there are many rumors that purport to fill this gulf. Some say that they are the splintered halves of a young elf maid who became lost in the wildwoods long, long ago, and was remade so that she might better serve the Weaver. Others recount that the twins are the darkest and lightest aspects of Ariel's spirit made manifest. Her passion and mercy split apart from her soul so that they can no longer dominate her being as they have in the past. A few stories even claim that the sisters are as divine as Ariel and Orion, but most commonplace by far are the songs and tales that claim that the twins are simply Ariel's daughters, and thus princesses of Athel Loren by right of blood and lineage. Ultimately, however, the Wood Elves debate and retell these possibilities solely out of their love of storycraft. They know that Naestra and Arahan speak with the authority of their beloved Mage Queen. No secret of the past will ever change that. Even amongst the Fae folk of Athel Loren, the Sisters of Twilight are notable for an otherworldliness of spirit and manner. Any weapons the sisters touch become infused with a portion of their nature. Those wielded by Naestra become anathema to creatures of anarchy and discord, whilst Arahan's tools of battle inflict great harm on beings with noble souls. Armed thusly, the sisters walk paths that even Waywatchers dread, and are said to tread the glades of the Dreaming Wood with a little concern as they do the eternally sunlit groves of Aranok. Though inclined to seek battle from afar, Naestra and Arahan do not shirk the bitter press of melee should the situation require. All of their armaments, be they arrows or blades, are crafted upon Val's anvil by no lesser hands than those of Daith. The Master Smith dotes upon the pair in the manner of a proud uncle and indulges Naestra's obsession with the perfect honing of her time-worn blade as uncomparingly as he does Arahan's ardent insistence at carrying a freshly fashioned spear into each battle. No other, not even Daith's fellow lords and ladies of the Great Council, can command his time so completely as the Sisters of Twilight. Yet each time the sisters present the smith with a new challenge, he simply gives a smile and returns the fires of the forge. A foe would be well advised to avoid confronting the Sisters of Twilight unless he possesses absolute certainty that he can fell them both in quick succession. The harms inflicted upon one twin are inconsequential so long as the other yet draws breath. The ancient magics of the forest can see the fallen sisters restored within moments of supposedly fatal events. This protection extends equally to both Naestra and Arahan, but it is inevitably the latter who gains most frequent benefit from it, and then invariably in the most spectacular fashions. To recount but a few such occasions, Arahan has hacked her way out of the belly of a gorgon after being swallowed whole, emerged unscathed from a razor-sharp cloud of dark magic to slay its caster, and eviscerated a vampire heartbeat after her own decapitation. The fleeting moments of Arahan's deaths are about the only times when Naestra casts aside her calm demeanor and becomes as furious a fighter as her twin. It is impossible to say whether this is because Arahan's wild spirit flows into her sister for those brief moments that her own body lies slain, or is simply a sibling's natural wrath at seeing the seeming slaughter of her kin. Whatever the cause, the consequences for the foe are inevitably bloody. Naestra's blade work may not be as exuberant as Arahan's, but what it lacks in brashness it more than compensates for with lethality of precision. Indeed, the slaughter Naestra wreaks when enraged is matched in scale only by the withering disapproval with which Naestra beholds her reckless sister once the moment has passed. A disapproval that Arahan disregards as cheerfully as she does all others. The Sisters of Twilight seldom fight from the center of the battle line, but are instead carried through the war-torn skies by one of their loyal steeds. Swift-winged Gwyndalor is a wise and even-tempered ally, as would be expected of a beast whose lineage springs directly from Talon, King of Eagles. Moreover, he has an uncanny ability to bring the twins to a position where their arrows can inflict the most harm. Sethan Har, by contrast, is as hot-blooded a creature as can be found in dragon kind. He thinks nothing of hurling both himself and the Sisters of Twilight into the thick of the fray, where arrows can be fired at point-blank range and blades too can do their wicked work. Though it is said to say that these two creatures know little fondness for each other, Gwyndalor considers the dragon to be a reckless and venturesome, whilst Sethan Har berates the eagle for his aloofness and constant caution. Different in temperament though they might be, Gwyndalor and Sethan Har are nonetheless united by their bonds of friendship with Naestra and Arahan. Though it is doubtful that either would put himself in harm's way for the other, both would gladly die 100 times over in defense of their mistresses. So really, really cool special character here, right? You've got two special characters on two separate mounts, not two separate mounts. They choose what mount they want to be on. You have that option with the associated point cost in it. But I mean, from a lore perspective, Naestra and Arahan are extremely unique. Extremely unique. They talk about the Wildwood, and the Wildwood, which is what we know as Scythe Thrall. We've seen it actually on the mini campaign for the Wood Elves, and we know it to be kind of this forsaken realm where these waystones kind of cordon off and block some of the most lethal of the wood spirits, not wood elf spirits, but spirits of Athel Loren that would actually mean harm and destruction to the Wood Elves. This is where we get the Wildwood Rangers, and where we actually get the Wardens of Scythrall, one of the regiments of renown for the Wood Elves. And from here, you can see that Naestra and Arahan really don't give much of a shit. They'll go walk through Scythrall if they want to, and into the Wildwood, where the Wildwood Rangers are the only ones who pretty much kind of keep watch on the Waystones and the inhabitants of the Wildwood. Then they go into the Dreaming Wood, which is another equally as dangerous place, and it's called Athel Kalian. And this place is actually, again, kind of not cordoned off, but it's completely avoided, because this is where the demons and the servants of Slaanesh kind of cavort, and they have the most dominance and most prominence here. And always, as we know, Slaanesh kind of loves to slurp up the juicy souls of Wood Elves, so Wood Elves know to completely avoid this place. Yet here these two people are. You know, here's Naestra and Arahan just going balls out through the Dreaming Wood, doing all sorts of dancing and crazy stuff. I mean, the Way Watchers won't even go here. So that gives you an idea of how fearless, at the same time how strong the Sisters of Twilight are. Even from the lore, you got a really good idea of how these two kind of are always coming back. And in the actual tabletop, they only have 2 wounds each. So it kind of balances the fact that you have to kill both to kill them outright, or else one they'll just come back immediately. So they have a really, really cool mechanic here, and it's called Conjoined Destiny. And the way it really works is just like the lore said, if only one is killed and the other one survived, both return to full health. That's probably the best like summarization of that rule. And here's I don't really know how they would do that from a Total War Warhammer perspective. You know, maybe like a Heart of Avalorn ability, where okay, if it gets to a certain point, there's a chance that it could just completely regenerate. Or if maybe it is 2 linked together units, you know, you'd have to have something where if you chose this as a legendary lord, you couldn't not have the other. So, you know, will this take up 2 slots? Would this take up, you choose this and it chooses maybe it's like a 3,000 or 4,000 point lord that actually has 2 characters within it that move as one. They don't move separately. So I don't know how they'd really do this. And it's such a crazy mechanic, even from the tabletop. And that's why I wanted to talk about this in a video, because this was actually recommended by one of the people in the comments through either during our Elspeth video or our Conrad von Karstein video. When we kind of go over, he was saying, like, hey, can you go over the Sisters of Twilight? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's a really good idea, because the Sisters of Twilight are so unique and so different that how the hell would you put this in Total War Warhammer 2? I don't know. Like, I love to see it because they're so cool and so lore rich. They have another ability, like, because it talked about how Naestra kind of like is the anathema to all things evil, and Arahan is the antithesis to all things good. And in the tabletop, they have a bonus to hitting things that are respective to their kind of hate, or what they are the antithesis for. So Naestra will get a close combat attack bonus for fighting anything from the forces of destruction. That would include greenskins, dark elves, warriors of chaos, vampire counts, ogre kingdoms, pretty much, you know, any tomb kings, anything that's considered evil. Forces of order would consequently include, you know, your empire, your Bretonnia, your high elves, your wood elves, even though they kind of stay in the middle of the line, your dwarfs. Even lizardmen are considered, I think, part of the forces of order, more or less. Because they don't outright seek to destroy whole entire portions of that. I'm getting off on a tangent, but it'd be cool to kind of see something like that where you had maybe a toggleable ability, rather than it kind of being like, okay, they do damage to both one or the other. Where you click it and say, okay, you do increase damage to forces of destruction or forces of order, because you know you can take both against them. Like you say, you're doing a 2v2. You've got wood elves versus, say, Bretonnia and Skaven. So you've got the ability to toggle that ability. I think that'd be really, really interesting as just a way to have something that's entirely different and new for a legendary lord or a special character in the Sisters of Twilight. And I'd really be excited about that. And moreover, you'd have 2 legendary mounts here. You've got Gwendolor, a Great Eagle. This would, of course, be the first lord choice that we would get from the Wood Elves. That's a mount-based lore choice. I mean, Orion's got hooves, that's disgusting. And Durthu's a giant treebeard. So, you know, we've got these 2 characters that are they're monstrous in their own right. And Naestra and Arahan are a way to bring just a normal Wood Elf into the legendary lord slot. And with that, mount options, obviously. So Gwendolor here, in the tabletop, he gives you bonuses when you're doing any kind of ranged attacks. So maybe the way that it actually does is they can reroll all failed to hit rolls when making shooting attacks. So maybe the way that translates is if you have Gwendolor, you have maybe anti-infantry, because you know how certain mounts impart certain abilities. Like say, for example, Cetra's mount, just putting him on a steed gives him anti-large and AP. So, you know, Gwendolor, let's just say, would give Naestra and Arahan maybe AP and anti-infantry, with the ability to maybe get like a small bonus to their ranged attack or their ranged weapon damage. Something like that to kind of infer that Gwendolor is meant mainly for the range aspect of the 2. Whereas Scythe and Har here gets you, he has like a special charge, and he's got a special soporific breath, which is pretty much just the dragon breath that they already have for green dragons. So what I would see them for him, like if they were able to give you pop the 2 onto this mount, they would maybe have anti-large AP and some sort of charge bonus, something of the sort, so that, okay, this is clearly meant to get these 2 into close combat. And I think it'd be really interesting to play like this. We've got this ability with the Dark Elves, with the Wood Elves, even with the High Elves. I can choose a prince, a High Elf prince, on a dragon that's male, and he is meant for close combat. Or I choose the female one, and she's meant for ranged, and it's opposite for the Dark Elves. But when I take a look at the Wood Elves, they have the same kind of mechanic. So it would make sense to have a Wood Elf Legendary Lord that has that mechanic built into it. How do I want to play this Lord? Do I want to make it a Legendary Lord that's ranged, or do I want to make it one that's melee? Okay, well, if it's going to be melee, I know I want to put it on the dragon, and that's going to be the kind of kit for that, or range goes on the Great Eagle. So it'd be very interesting to see that kind of built into one Lord, rather than separating it across 2 separate Lords. Furthermore, they do have 2 magic items, and we haven't talked about that yet, so we probably should, being that these are 2 magic items that are unfortunately both ranged. So you've got the Talon of Dawn. Naestra's bow fires no mortal shot, but bolts of blessed light that melt through armor to sear the flesh beneath. It is said that the souls reaped by this weapon yield their energies to undo the harms they have wrought against the wielder's allies. This is a really cool bow. It's actually got a pretty far range. It's got a very strong strength. So it's going to have a high weapon strength on it. But it has AP, it's got flaming attacks, and it does multiple wounds. Don't really know how we would do a multiple wounds thing. I'd love to see like a wounds, like arrows, like the Chosen of the God have, the Ashabti Great Bows, where they split down. Oh man, that's such a cool mechanic, and I'd love to see that used more, especially in an army like the Wood Elves, which is, their claim to fame is their range capability. But what the special thing of the Talon of Dawn is that any time that it does damage, it actually heals the mount that Naestra is on. So, are they on the Great Eagle? Okay, well, it's going to heal the Great Eagle. Are they on the dragon? It's going to heal the dragon. So maybe to see this translated into Total War Warhammer is that with every shot, it maybe is a life leeching shot, or maybe it has an ability to have a certain percentage to give health back. And we've seen some of the most competitive lores in Total War Warhammer are lords that can heal themselves or use some sort of healing. We look at Boris Todbringer, we look at Arkan the Black, we look at the Ponzi Lord from the Warriors of Chaos that are just escaping me right now because I'm riffing so hard. His armor heals him. Boris's armor heals him. Arkan the Black's Tombblade heals him. Anytime that you can have a lord that heals themselves, they become almost the most competitive lord in that roster. We even have the Horn of the Hunt and the Cloak of Aisha on Orion, and that, when it first came out, was huge. It was a great way to keep an already semi-tanky lord even tankier. So I'd love to see another healing mechanic come into play here with the High Wood Elves to kind of help make contention for the competitiveness of that legendary lord slot. Our last magic item here is the Talon of Dusk. The arrows of Arahan's bow are crafted from the spirit husks of the wild wood's bitterest dryads. Once loosed, they splinter into scores of poisonous thorns that seek the flesh of Athel Loren's enemies. This one's pretty cool too. Has AP, has multiple shots, but this one is 2d6, meaning you can shoot anywhere from 2 to 12 shots, and it does poisoned attacks. Poisoned attacks are way different in tabletop than they are in Total War Warhammer. So maybe rather than it just being, because in this it's a strength 1, say it has the same like a high missile damage as some of the other stuff from the Wood Elves roster, but it does poison attacks as well. So you've got your flaming attacks, you got your poison attacks, you got AP coming out of this conjoined lord here, or lady here, and I'd love to see that. So as you guys can tell, Naestra and Arahan are very unique, and I just don't know if they'll make the translation into being a lord choice for the Wood Elves. I do think that the Wood Elves need a facelift, they need more legendary lords. No doubt they need their measurements of renown back, god damn it, but I know that we're going to have to see something, right? Total War Warhammer 3 is not a year away. It's probably 2 years away. we probably won't see it until the end of 2019. You know, Three Kingdoms is coming out the end of this year, so that kind of fits the timeline that they typically develop under. Now, with that being said, maybe we'll get an increase in that timeline as soon as Norsk is released, because when that happens, maybe they'll be able to divert the resources back to other projects. But as it is, 2019 is our release, probably our projected release date. And with that in mind, they're going to need to do stuff to kind of keep the Total War Warhammer community interested. And like we've kind of talked about in our previous 2 videos, that probably means facelifts and additions to some of the original races, heroes, lords of the Total War Warhammer 1 universe, because the Total War Warhammer 2 armies are just so much, they have so much more character than the first ones. And I think that this Lord lady is a good first step in having an extremely different Lord. And I'll be totally frank with you guys, in the tabletop, she was not chosen very often. They were not chosen very often. Any of the Wood Elf rosters that I saw either had Durthu, Orion, and maybe Erloth. Erloth is a really generic lord, because he's simply just, oh, I'm just a guy, just me. Like he's just a guy on foot. So if you have a smaller point game, he's really good to take. But some of the medium to larger points would take Durthu or Orion. I almost never saw Draika. And Naestra Arahan was one of those things where people would buy the model because it looked really cool, but it's just not played as much as I think it deserved, because it's such a cool lord. And because it's so cool, I think it would make a great translation into Total War Warhammer 2 in some way or another. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video here today. I'm sorry it was so weird and wonky, because this lord or this lady is weird and wonky. But thanks for kind of bearing with me on it. And let me know some of the other lords and ladies that you want to hear about in the universe. I'm so open to taking suggestions as we kind of go foray through these heroes together. I'm going to be doing the next one of Ungrim Iron Fist, because I've just been itching to do him, and he's such a strong character in the dwarf lore. So I'll be having him come out here in the next couple days as well. But let me know, again, guys, if there's any more you'd like to see. Go ahead and comment below. Don't forget to like the video. Just stick a thumb up it. And actually, if you can, head on over to my Twitter and start following me on Twitter. Since I'm streaming on both YouTube and Twitch, it's a great way to get an update as to where I will be streaming for that day, that week. Also, it's a good way to find out how mentally unstable I am. So go ahead and head on over to my Twitter. It's on the actual front page. It's twitter.com/ItalianSpartacus. But thanks for watching here today, guys. Have a good one and take care.